Welcome to the Addicted to DVC podcast, a deep dive into all things Disney Vacation Club. We share tips, tricks, and insider info, helping you make the most of your membership. Join us for the latest news, reviews, and interviews with DVC experts and enthusiasts. Whether you're a seasoned DVC member or considering your first contract, this podcast is for you. Now, here are your hosts, Mike Hurley and Gary Arruda.
Welcome to the Addicted to DVC podcast with Mike and Gary. This is episode 22, recorded in the D. Fauntleroy Recording Studios in Sarasota, Florida, and Cranston, Rhode Island. I'm your host, Mike in Florida, joined by my cousin and co-host, Gary, up in Rhode Island. Good evening, Gary.
You have like the NPR voice tonight, Pards.
Yeah, I'm working on it.
Hello. This could be like this could go in the ASMR section of YouTube. We could get a ton of hits.
You think this could be the one?
Do you know what ASMR is?
No.
Have you ever seen that on YouTube?
No.
So it's like this whole genre of like soft-spoken, like tapping, like these things that like give you like, they call them tingles. Like, you ever get that feeling like when
I get the tingles all the time, Pards, especially when I hit that one good iron shot.
It's a little different than that.
Oh, okay.
You know that thing that they would sell at the mall that had like the metal teeth that you put on your head?
No.
Like that. You would know. I think you'd know what I'm talking about. Like, I don't. It's hard to describe. Anyway, ASMR is like a genre. And it's very, very popular on YouTube. And the people, they'll talk really soft in a whisper.
How did you find this?
Oh, because I watch it. They help me fall asleep.
Oh.
It's very relaxing. But they'll have like tapping, like you can.
What, like?
And people like it, and you do it for like 45 minutes of just tapping.
And is this something that you listen to at night to put you to bed?
Yes. And it's very relaxing. But there's different things, like people doing mundane things, like typing. People like typing, they'll have a keyboard. They'll be like doing a hotel check-in, pretending they're like, okay, Mr. Hurley, where are you staying today? Oh, we'll see if we can get you checked into the lodge.
You millennials find the most obscure stuff on YouTube, don't you?
I don't think it's being a millennial has anything to do with it. I'm just a
has to do
messed
with
up
you guys.
individual.
Everybody gets.
All
a
I was gonna
crazy
say
generation.
is there's not an ASMR Disney podcast that exists yet, to my knowledge. So maybe that could be our YouTube niche. You're talking about a niche that we need, right?
We need to. Yeah, we're niching down on WDW Beyond the Gates right now, but this channel we haven't niched down.
So it could just be like ASMR. We'll just convert all our shows and we'll just whisper to each other the whole time. Talk really slow.
It's just this microphone's fantastic too. I've got so much invested in this podcast. We have still yet to make a nickel. I've gotten a free stay. I got a dozen golf calls from Ken Cabot. So
it's also pretty nice.
Yeah.
But no real cash on hand yet. Our coffers are pretty light, is what you're saying, heading into 2025.
It's going to be a good year, Parge. I'm setting up our Patreon page. I am going to be an absolute dirty pig this next year.
That's your New Year's resolution.
I'm going to get trespassed from Disney. I'm going to be standing on the grounds at Riviera, like playing like the banjo, trying to make a few bucks. What do they play in Italy? Like, what instrument do they play there? I'm going to have my little bucket out, my guitar thing open, and make a few bucks. That would be a good thing to get trespassed from, wouldn't it?
Panhandling
in the Riviera lobby.
Anyway, I think the ASMR Disney thing would work really well. Maybe we'll look into that.
Okay, you're on board with that. You still have your radio voice. You miss that industry, don't you?
Not really.
No.
Not particularly. This scratches the itch that I have. I'm good.
Does it?
Yeah. What are we up to today? On Christmas Day,
Christmas Day, Pards. We were
to all our listeners.
You sent me up to work because I've been kind of slacking off over the past couple months, and you had our HR department call me, and I thought for sure I was getting canned. But
we put you on a performance improvement plan.
Little pip, exactly. Yeah. The performance improvement plan. They said you got to go up to property and you have to attend these DVC meetings. So yours truly went up. I stayed at All Star Music.
Oh, that must have hurt.
You guys put me up. I mean, you talk about the performance improvement plan. All our other employees are checking in. They got these gorgeous suites at the Contemporary. They only have to walk downstairs to the meeting. I'm at the All-Stars. I got to trudge to get to the bus stop. I got to try to get on the accordion bus first thing in the morning so I can get to my meeting on time. Then I have to go through security at the Magic Kingdom just to turn around and walk right back to the Contemporary.
That's always the worst, isn't it?
Oh, you guys, yeah. Oh, that's the worst. And I kind of want to just hop the fence and cross, because you can cross right there at the Contemporary.
Right, but they probably don't like that.
And they got that Orange County sheriff sitting right there on that island. You know that island when you turn right to go into the Contemporary? He's always there. That guy, and you can't see in his windows.
Right.
And it's a canine. You know he's going to open up that back door if I don't stop. If I just start running to the convention center. I'm running late, Pards. I'm running late.
All-star music, huh?
All-star music. That was
That's
all the
tough.
way in.
Times are tough for Pards over
here. I met our buddy that finally Zach, and we pronounced his name wrong.
Tilvis?
Oh, yeah, I've always said Tilves.
Yeah, but no, when he's been on, he said it's Tilvis. I continue saying Tilves.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so we met, and I was telling Rachel that I stayed at the All-Star Sport. She goes, "Are you serious?" Like, she thought I was joking. I'm like, "No, that's where they put me up."
Well, you're on a performance improvement plan when you're getting put up in those accommodations. You're like, "Uh-oh." That was a wake-up call, wasn't it?
It really was, because this show is the Addicted to DVC podcast, and you're putting me up at a value, and you couldn't even put me preferred near the Weasel Pool or anything. I was all the way in the back by the parking lot.
I mean, you were closer to the Shoney's than the Magic Kingdom.
I was definitely closer to the Shoney's on 192. I had to make sure I was by those lighted call boxes that they have on college campuses.
You could hear the Bojangles drive-through from your balcony.
You need to walk back to your room. There were a few times where I was close to using that service.
You put your keys in between your fingers just in case as you're walking. In case you
I had my mace and my pepper spray. I was well prepared.
Well, we're not here to talk about the All-Stars.
No,
although we can if you like. You said it wasn't bad, right?
Oh, yeah, that room. That's a great room. That's a beautiful. Oh, it's a great room. It's just my only problem. It's dark. It's just I need that balcony and I need that light.
Yeah, because you don't even want the window open because it's just out to like where people are walking by nonstop.
Yeah, and I was down by the corner, so I was okay. I didn't have much traffic, so I had it open. But I'll tell you, there was my first sleep. It was one of those where you wake up and it's like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and you thought it was 6.
Yeah.
And you look at your smartphone, you're like, whoa, did I sleep well last night? Because you get no light in there. So it has like that 6 o'clock light in there.
Yeah, that's nice.
You shut the double blinds. It's really nice, isn't it?
That is. But we'll get back to that at another time. So you went up for the DVC Association meetings, and it was over the course of, 3 different days?
Yeah, so they had 2 separate days because now the state of Florida apparently changed their rules, so you have to meet quarterly. HOAs have to meet quarterly now instead of yearly.
Okay.
So now they break these into quarterly meetings.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, this is something new because last year, remember, you sent me again, but that was when I was on good standing with the company.
Yeah,
and
right.
You sent me up there with Angry Newfield Jr. and Joe Quat.
Right.
Yeah, so that was their yearly meeting. So now they break them up. So each resort has its separate quarterly meeting.
Okay.
And then the final day, they have like the big hoorah in the grand ballroom.
Oh, so you go specifically which association you're part of if you want.
Yep.
And then they have one overall meeting. So the overall one's not even really required then.
That's correct. Yeah.
Just the individual ones because they're individual associations. I see what you're saying.
Yep, you got it.
All right, well, give us a rundown.
So it's pretty interesting. So you go walking in, and I'd say there were maybe 30 people. My first meeting was Riviera,
and
there were maybe 30 people, and it did a beautiful, nice coffee setup with cream and sugar and all sorts of specialty teas and hot chocolate. So I got there about 10 minutes early. I started. The general manager was walking around the room, introducing himself, talking to everybody in the room. And then the meeting started, and the first 15 minutes are just a Q&A.
Okay.
So they do a Q&A, and You know who asked. I did ask a question the second day, but you know the people who ask the questions.
They're either very nerdy and they have a very particular, like, technical question,
Yep.
or it's the stupidest question, like, why does the bus drive 43 miles an hour instead of 40 miles an hour?
Yeah, there was a little bit of that. Um, so one of the questions pertained to the Skyliner.
Okay.
And the lady said, because you know how the Skyliner works. It goes from popping out of animation, and
Mhm.
then it goes over to Caribbean Beach. It's
That's
called
their hub.
Trinidad Station. That's the hub.
Correct.
And then the 3 resorts there get on to the Epcot loop, which comes down to Riviera and then turns over and goes over to Epcot. And the question was, first thing in the morning, these cars are packed. And I
Yeah.
don't know if you've gotten on the Skyliner going to Epcot from Riviera, and you know how you stand in line, the door's open and it's already full, and then the door opened and it's full. So a woman's question was, when we purchased our vacation club, our guide told us that for every 5 cars or 6 cars, they were gonna send 1 empty one over to Riviera.
Hmm.
And the person, said, you might have missed, as Roger Clemens or who was it, Rafael
I
Palmeiro?
misremembered, yeah.
You either misremembered or the guide gave you bad information, but that was never the case. However, we are constantly radioing back and forth. So Riviera might call back to Trinidad, say, "Hey, we're 30 deep right now. You gotta send us a couple empties so we can get our guests on board and get them over to Epcot." So that's what they said that they do
Okay.
to remedy the situation, but that was the first question. Now, what would you do in that situation if you're a sea-level ops guy? If you're running that Skyliner, are you gonna just send random empty cars?
I guess so. I mean, I've never really dealt with it because I've never taken it from Riviera. Actually, that's not
Okay.
true. I have, but I usually am taking it from, like, Epcot to Riviera or, like, Hollywood Studios to Epcot where I'm,
Yeah.
like, transferring. Um, I don't know. What I guess, yeah, you send a few empty ones. They're that busy that they
Y
don't you
I'll
can't
tell
fit
you
any.
what,
I've never been in the morning, so I don't know.
when we were there were a couple times we waited 5 minutes. I mean, even when I've left Epcot and it is a line and they're actually using the queue, the most I ever wait is 5 minutes. So, it's certainly I don't think it's ever been an issue. And we've stayed at Riviera now 2 times, but we've used that Skyliner system a million times because we constantly go over to Riv if we're at Epcot and it's crowded and we wanna go grab a quick primo piatto bite.
Of course.
Yeah, so that was basically the gist of it.
I mean, it's a fair question. If they were told that, that's bad that the guides
Mhm.
are telling that. However, I can't imagine having to wait, like you said, more than 5, 10 minutes. Like, I'd rather wait 10 minutes for the Skyliner than 25 minutes for a bus.
Yeah, I would too. And now, it was a little busier this time. So what they were doing, you used to ride alone on those Skyliner cars, and now, if they open it up and it's a family of 3 or a family of 4, they'll throw a 2 back in there. So they're packing these cars up, especially during the prime time.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's nice when you have it to yourself, but I understand if there's a lot of people waiting that you're not gonna be in it by yourself. I don't know, that wouldn't really even I wouldn't even think of that as part of the association because the Skyliner is separate from the hotel anyway.
Correct.
Like, DVC, I know they have to pay for the transportation, like the DVC, but they're not in charge of the transportation. Disney is. DVC is separate from my understanding, right?
I believe so, yes.
I don't know, that's a weird one.
And then they got into finance, which kinda juiced me up. So, they were saying that 2/3 of our annual dues go to operational costs.
Okay.
And that's like, your front desk, the primary cost of that is housekeeping.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've always heard
And
that's the biggest cost at any resort is the housekeeping.
Yep. And then 1/3 goes to reserves and the other 1/3 goes to taxes and insurance.
Well, that's 4/3. You said 2/3 goes to operational.
And then it's the other third. I'm sorry. Then I should have been what? It would have been 1/6.
Oh, so like half of that remaining. Yeah,
Half of that,
I
yeah.
gotcha.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, so the remaining 1/3
is split between taxes and reserves, basically.
Yes.
Makes sense. Okay.
And the reserves are actually the refurbishments.
That also makes sense.
Which means, so then when we were kind of guesstimating that annual dues were higher here, it was because they were going through a refurb, but they actually save a portion of that to go to the refurbishments.
Right, but I imagine as it gets closer and they have a better grasp on the budget, they may say, "Oh, we need to raise it by 4% this year to hit that budget
That could
number."
be it. Because she came over after the meeting and sat down and we were talking. I said, God, that's a tough job because you have to forecast out 7 and 14 years,
Yeah.
plus whatever you have to forecast for breakage.
Right.
You know, maybe you're spending $100,000 a year putting a new bed frame up or a new what have you in the rooms.
Anything. TVs break, stuff like that. Yeah.
And I'm sure 100,000. You know, it's probably several million a year that they have to put back into stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. How many rooms do they have at Riviera? Do you know? Or approximately a couple hundred?
I think it's like in the 3 change because we actually looked it up and the Grand Floridian was almost half. I think the villas were like 148 and Riviera was in the low 3s.
Do 300 rooms at the Riviera. 186 are studios. So there you go. So that's it. The financial stuff is kind of interesting. I mean, nothing like stands out as crazy though.
No, it's all pretty cut and dry.
Yeah.
You know, people were asking about insurance and, you know, if Disney ever thought of self-insuring because they're such a big company and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was about it. I didn't write down any of the stupid questions, obviously, because we're not going to waste our listeners' time.
I kind of like the stupid questions, though.
Do you really?
Like, when are they going to change the resort blend to something different from Joffrey's?
Oh, like the stupid ultra specific stuff.
Yeah, like
those were the ones that we'll get back. We're going to table that. Those were those nonsense questions. What's the corporate garbage? Like when somebody asks you a ridiculous question, I'll get back to you, or I'll talk to the leadership team.
I gotta send it up the food chain and see. We'll get some feedback.
Some feedback. The food chain.
Last time I stayed, the button on the microwave didn't have the +30. My microwave at home has the +30, but this one you have to hit 30. Is there any way we could get different microwaves in this?
Can we change that out?
Yeah, we're gonna have to send that up the food chain, and we'll discuss that at the next quarterly meeting. Sounds like though, like the resort specific ones were more technical, and then the overall meeting was more of like you said, the rah, like what's going on, what's coming up.
Yep.
Year in review, and then looking forward. Or anything that stood out at any of the resort specific ones that you went to?
Yeah, well, day 2 was the Grand Floridian.
Yep.
And
actually, let me interrupt you.
Yep.
Did you have to be a member to
yes,
go
you
to
did.
these? Okay.
Yes, you did.
So you couldn't have popped into like Saratoga.
I honestly could have. I don't know how strict they were because when I went in through my portal, it didn't say that I could only go to these 2 meetings. I specifically click down where I wanted to go. You are supposed to own there.
All right, I'm sure they're not enforcing it that strictly, but that's what they want you to do.
Yeah, because then when you go and you check in, and they had my name on the list, and then they actually asked for a photo ID, and then they give you like the little sticker that has your name. But if you know where the rooms are, you could just walk right into any meeting that you wanted to go to. They're not going to, hey, my name tag must have fallen off. They're not going to
I get you.
Bust your chops. I just don't think that there's a high a high volume of people wanting to sit in. Just a few of the old people who are staying here to get a couple, free coffee and ask about if they could switch over the creamers and different flavored creamers or what have you. But
yeah, exactly. Anything jump out at the Grand Floridian one?
Yeah, they don't really have an answer for the monorail. Because I asked that question about the Poly Tower. It's already disaster.
Right.
Get taken a monorail when you're the last one on the loop. But the Poly Tower
is adding a ton of inventory.
It's adding
now.
a ton. And honestly, Chris and I, we'd rather walk. It's way easy to walk, but there's people who have mobility issues. It's not an ideal situation for young families with strollers or kids who halfway through, I don't want to walk anymore. I'm tired. I mean,
sometimes you just don't want to walk if it's hot. You don't want to do it.
Yeah, so they really didn't have an answer. They said that they can always add a monorail onto that track, which they do monitor, but they really didn't have. I didn't think they had an answer.
Well, again, that's outside of their, because like obviously the Grand Floridian's not only DVC either, so they have the cash side and the monorail's a separate entity. I mean, it's a feature, but yeah, I don't know. Like, even if they send in more, there's still going to be people at the Poly getting on. Like, they can't. I guess they could just not let people save the back 2 cars for the Grand Floridian or something, and save the middle 2 cars for the Poly and the front 2 cars for the Contemporary, or however. I know there's more than that. Whatever the number ends up being. If it becomes that big of an issue, they're going to have to do something like that.
Yeah, they are.
Where they don't let people line up in those last few, and then fill in as you go.
Because then if they just do the first 2, then it's going to be a Polynesian problem. Because that's where a majority. I would just say, I don't know who has more rooms, but with that tower, I just think that that's gonna. The other problem, I'll be honest, when I was riding the monorail around, I'd say 75% of ridership were from other resorts and people going to the parks. Because I would see people getting on, and I'd hear people talking about how let's go try lunch over here, and you guys staying? Oh, we're over at Pop, we're over here, we're just checking out all the different lobbies, which they have that right to do, but
yeah, I don't know how they get around that, because it is something they encourage people to do.
Right.
And it's good business, because if you're staying off property, or if you're staying at Pop Century, and then you go check out the Contemporary, and now you're falling in love with it, well, now you might want to stay there again, and that's triple the price. So that's good business for Disney. Or you say, oh, this DVC thing would let us stay here, then you invest in DVC, and that's again good business for them. So yeah, I understand why they encourage it, but it's also for the people paying for these amenities, they should have priority.
It is a problem, because I did ask that question at the breakout session the following day. Okay. I was talking to the GM at the Grand Floridian. I said, it's that lobbies year after year is just an absolute mess. I said, we stayed here last Christmas. I said, you got to wait in line to sit on the couch to listen to piano player. And she said it's a problem. And we don't like it, to be honest. Like, she's, it is good for business, but it's not good for business if our members aren't happy. And we hear over and over and over again that we're staying there and we're not able to use our lobby during the holiday season.
Right. Yeah, and that's one of their highest point times too, near the holiday season.
Right.
And on the cash side, I know that's not really what we're talking about, but if you're paying hundreds, $900 a night for a studio, and you can't even use the lobby because it's inundated with people, especially on those Christmas party days where people just hang there until they can go to the park.
Oh, it's awful, isn't it?
Oh, we did it.
We were
staying at the treehouse, and it was miserable. Remember how long the line for the monorail was? Because they closed down the boats because it was too windy?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, what can you do? Restrict people? Magic band onto the monorail? You have to be staying at one of those resorts
I mean, they used to the first time I stayed there, you had to show your key.
to get on the monorail?
You had to show your ID to
Hmm.
get on the monorail.
Yeah, I mean, they could do that.
I mean, they could easily do that with the Magic Band. Okay, you have a reservation at Steakhouse 71. Okay, you can monorail. You can jump.
The only other problem is, though, if you're parked at the ticketed transportation center, you can obviously take the express one, but there's also
Then you can only take the express one then.
only
Maybe.
the express, I guess, yeah. Because it does stop there as well.
Yeah, it does. Yep. Yeah, because people who are coming from Epcot, if I'm coming from Epcot and I'm staying at the Grand Floridian, I'm getting on the resort monorail.
Right. Yeah, I guess that if it gets a lot worse, they're going to have to do something. I don't know that they will. I don't know how, they say it's a problem, but is it really?
Right.
It might not be ideal, but they're not losing business over it. Until it starts costing them money, they're not going to change it. Because it would cost them money to change it. It's going to be an infrastructure investment and staffing investment to do that.
Absolutely. But I honestly, Disney Vacation Club is such a different beast. Like, these people actually care about the members.
Yeah.
Like, the higher ups, all the bean counters are in a different level, but these people do care about their members. Like, I saw it firsthand when I stayed at Riviera last week. I mean, it was we'll talk about that on another show, but it's just insane.
Yeah.
How amazing their staff was and how great the service was. Now, we can go back because I do have a few other items to talk about.
Yeah, please.
Now, one of the big parts is that they are looking to stop walking.
I heard that.
Somebody asked that question, and they said that it is a problem.
This was at the main meeting, right?
This was brought up at the Grand Floridian meeting.
Oh, okay.
Specifically at the Grand Flow meeting, because we don't do a Q&A. It's basically just presentations at the big meeting.
Gotcha.
So I know for sure that this was brought up at the meeting, and your buddy Paul was at this meeting, so that's where it might have leaked out to the media because he's got those high-end media credentials.
That's right, yeah.
So that's where that may have come from, but they said that they are looking at stopping it right now
and renting commercial.
That was the second thing.
Both of those are huge. I don't know how they could implement it. Because there are times where you have to modify your reservation, right? That you're not even walking it, where you're just modifying.
You just and the woman said, back in the day, you could only book at 7 months. You couldn't book it 7 months in 1 day or 7 months in 2 days. And it was a nightmare for members because then they had to call member services all the time.
Every day. For
every
a week-long vacation. Yeah.
Correct. And they said that that's why they changed it. And then there's a huge loophole in the system, and people are taking advantage of it.
Yeah, so maybe you can only reserve online, and then modifications have to be done through member services.
Or maybe you're only allowed a couple of modifications per
and then
reservation.
You have to call or do whatever.
Yeah, because the true walking, they do it for months.
You could, yeah, like California.
Yeah.
You find 3 days and you just walk it out until you actually want to go.
Right.
Or 4 days or whatever the term is. It's a pain in the ass to do it because you have to be up at 8 every day to make sure someone doesn't nab that day at the end of your
right.
At the end of your week or whatever it is, but people will do it if they're determined enough. And then the biggest problem, I think, that compounds it, if you want to talk about the renting as well, is that people will nab up these highly sought after times at these highly sought after places and then try to make big bucks off the rentals instead of, I have 100 points I'm not going to use. Right. Let me try to rent it to somebody so I can recoup some of my costs, as opposed to it's a business. I have 8,000 points and I'm trying to book all the value studios at Animal Kingdom so I can rent them, or
I
all
mean,
the club levels, or whatever it is.
right. Right, because I showed you that screenshot of what
Yeah.
my cash stay at Riviera in that one-bedroom standard view, now they call it theme park view, in May is gonna cost, and it's gonna be with taxes $3,300.
Yeah.
So I come out and I say, "Well, you don't pay taxes, you don't pay any fees. I'm gonna give it to you for, even $900 cash a night, $2,700. It's gonna
It's still
save you
saving 600, $800.
save 600-800 bucks, and it can sit out there for a while because May is a long time out. Now somebody calls, "Hey, I can get this for XYZ. I'm only saving a few $100. Knock $200 off. Deal." So even if
Right.
I drop to $800 a night, I'm making $2,400.
Yeah.
My fees over there are about $1,300 a year.
And that's how many points is that?
For in May, it's 31. It's I believe it's like 93 to 96, somewhere around there.
So it's about 2/3 of your contract, though.
Yeah.
But you're getting double your dues for it.
Yeah, I mean, I
Essentially.
bought that contract for $16,000. So I mean, just do the math. I could pay off that contract in 4 years,
Yeah.
4 or 5 years.
And I know not a lot of people are doing it, but the people that are doing it are doing a lot of it. I think it's a volume thing.
The people who are doing it are doing a lot of it because they said, "We don't wanna punish people if you need to sell some for annual dues or you couldn't stay for a year. Now you have a bunch of unused points. This was originally set up to be very flexible for members, so we don't wanna take it all away," but they said that they actually have a department now that are
Oh, like
watching
looking
it.
into it.
Yeah. Because like you said, they call it the commercial renters, and there's people who just have thousands and thousands of points who aren't staying there.
Yeah.
Like, I think and honestly, like, you're joking around, but if we both bought a 150-point contract just to sell rooms, we're not even a blip on their radar.
No. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah. It's tough because it takes away rooms from members too, because
You're
if you're
right.
renting it, it's going 9 times out of 10 to non-members,
Correct.
which is fine. The points still are gonna be used at some point, so I get it. Like, they're either gonna go to waste or get used on a room. But to take up really valuable inventory just to try to make a profit, where members wanna use their points to stay during those days, it makes it a lot tougher. I have no problem with either of those things if they can happen. I don't know how they can implement either
Right.
of them, staying within their bylaws and not punishing people doing things the right way,
Yep.
but I'm all for it if they could figure out a way to do it. They also could just be doing lip service and saying, "We're working on it," and then they
Oh,
never do anything.
completely agree. Completely agree.
Or they can't figure out a way. I'm not saying they're not even
Mhm.
genuine trying to do it. They just might not be able to do it within the bylaws.
'Cause I
Legally.
think deep down they wanna get rid of commercial renters, because that's not good for membership, and I think they do wanna get rid of walking.
If you could only if which one would you get rid of if you could only get rid of one?
Honestly, the walking just irritates me. I told you when we were chatting the other night, I'm gonna have to walk this Hilton Head reservation because there's a time where now I'm waking up at 8 o'clock. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, when it's all blue. It's all wide open.
Yeah.
So I get up on Monday or Sunday rather when it's cheaper points, and I get up at 7:59 and I refresh, I refresh, I refresh. Now Sunday, Monday, Tuesday are gone. Well,
Right.
these were just open the day before. Why are these gone? Because they got up and they modified their reservation. They canceled the weekend.
Yeah,
And now they have
exactly.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Because a 7 month, you still couldn't book a Monday or a
Right,
Tuesday.
because it was 7 plus 7
It
or
was
whatever.
7,
Yeah.
it was 7 plus 2 a day and 7 plus 2 days. Now these are gone. Well, how come they're gone?
Because they were
Because
able to modify.
you can look online and see what members are booking.
Right.
Because when you're wide open at 8, 9, 10 months, well, the members have already booked their 11 month
Yeah,
that they
90%,
wanted. Now we can
95% of
still,
it.
I can still, cut you out at the Grand Floridian in October, but for the most part, we're booking what we want at 11.
Especially if it's highly sought after.
Right.
If you're trying to do September at the boardwalk you're not going in now. It's already banged out.
Right, especially at a studio. That's the thing. You can't get studios at these, like the Grand Floridian. They don't have a ton of room, so that's why you need to buy in there. Because if you want a studio, especially during good times of the season, September is super cheap. And a lot of people like Chris and I who don't have kids own at the Grand Floridian. There's a big demand in September, believe it or not, because
it's the
cheap
lower
points and it's
more bang for your buck at that point.
And the parks are empty.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that you're certainly going to be going that time of year when your kids are off and on their own.
Yeah,
it's going to be cheaper, and you're not going to have to deal with crowds.
Right.
Yeah, so those were basically the takeaways.
But that's pretty big, though. If they're actually actively working on rentals and walking, and if they can eliminate that, I think it will just make the experience. A lot of people wouldn't even notice.
Well, one guy, hey, what's walking? I'm like, oh God. Like, you got 2 hours, and a lady grabbed a microphone and was kind of like, She explained it, and I understood it, but there's only 5% of DVC members who can grasp it because it's something that nobody would think of doing to begin with.
Right.
And you have to learn it by reading blogs and going on YouTube anyways.
For the most part, yeah. Yeah, I guess you could limit the amount of modifications you have on a reservation. Like, you can only modify each reservation twice or something like that, and then it gets locked in, or you have to cancel it and then start over.
Right.
Which makes it harder because that's like an extra process. Maybe you have to wait 24 hours between each modification. That would stop it right there, right?
It certainly would.
So if you're trying to walk something for 3 weeks and okay, so you do it one day, you can modify, and it says you now have to wait 48 hours to modify this reservation again. Well, there you go. Now you lost that day, and you can't do it anymore. Now it's split up. So at that point, walking's done, right? If you have to wait 48 hours between modifications.
More than likely, yeah, it's going to fill up, right?
On those if it's that bad that you're walking it for 3 months, just that would screw it up. It would be totally done.
Mm-hmm.
At that point. So maybe that's what they have to do. I don't know.
Now, finish. I did ask another, because I geek out at the finances. So I asked the finance girl. I said, hey, I own at Riviera and I own at Grand Floridian. I said, and they're both just basically similar tower resorts that aren't, sprawling 3-story Caribbean beach.
Not as much grounds.
Right. Coronado, Port Orleans, you name it. I said, why are my dues, and this is a brand new resort. This resort just turned 5 years old. Why are my dues like $1.10 more at Riviera than they are at the Grand Floridian? And she said, without really, really getting into and looking at numbers, she goes, the short answer is that the Grand Floridian is a shared resort where Riviera is a dedicated DVC resort. She said the Grand Floridian is being subsidized by the cash side.
Makes sense.
And she said, same thing with Contemporary, same thing with Polynesian. I said, that makes total sense. I said, but I've always scratched my eyes where you have two similar resorts, both have pool, pretty much the same amenities.
Yeah.
And one's like $1.25 more. Because I'm still interested to see why Saratoga is so much different than Old Key West. And we have our assumptions, but they're both very similar. Just kind of like Grand Floridian and Riviera, I would say.
Yeah, I guess it comes down to the amount of points out there too.
Right.
Like there's more points at Riviera than the Grand Floridian, I assume.
So then wouldn't you think that it would be cheaper?
Well, no, because that's cash subsidized. But let's say like Saratoga and Old Key West, who has more points? Like
I see. So if you're saying that the Grand Floridian was a standalone resort, and we're going to do standalone with standalone Riviera, and now Riviera has more rooms, then theoretically it should be a little bit less because you're spreading those costs among more points. Yep.
Because it doesn't even matter how many rooms there are; it matters how many points. So the more, because a Grand Floridian room costs more points.
Yeah.
per
On
night.
the average, it's one
Yeah.
or two more, right?
So that's gonna subsidize it to some extent too. But I don't know. I could be wrong on that, Matt. Anything else you want to add?
No, is there anything that you wanted to add?
Not really. They didn't get into anything too much with like refurbishment schedules or things
Yeah,
like
they
that.
did the refurbishment schedule. It's pretty much standard what you see online. I know they're
Nothing out of
doing
the ordinary,
the
right?
Contemporary right now, and a few others.
Animal Kingdom though isn't till the end of the year. I saw.
I believe so.
It's a bummer because I'm
They
staying there.
did say, I believe it was at the big meeting at the end that Boulder Ridge won an award, a big industry award with like interior decorating magazines.
Huh.
For what they did with their rooms, because I think they knocked that refurbishment out of the park.
They're really nice, the rooms, yeah.
Yeah, aren't they great?
That Boulder Ridge lobby is fantastic too.
It is. It's such a quiet, chill place.
Yes. It could be. They could have like forced something else into it. There's never anybody in there. There's not even staff in there, which I actually kind of like because that means people aren't congregating and asking questions and like trying to check in and out there. It's just really relaxing.
Yeah, it
Good
is.
vibes. I like it.
Yeah, Boulder Ridge is definitely on my radar. I'll probably never own there because I like Boardwalk just a touch better.
Plus, Copper Creek's a better value, right? When people say like the best value.
Yeah, I just don't like Copper Creek at all. I hate their rooms.
Right.
I just don't like the converted hotel rooms because there's not much you can do.
Yeah, but you're not in studios anymore, Pards. These one bedrooms are different.
Yeah, the one bedrooms are still just like two studios that are kind of, yeah. Because I think the one bedroom at Boulder Ridge is nice too.
Because that 3-bedroom Grand Villa at Copper Creek might be the nicest one on property.
I was looking at the Grand Villa at Hilton Head.
Yeah.
They got 2 nights in a row in January next month.
And
it's too bad that you can't get the kids out of school. You know how, and I wouldn't do it next year, but I'm just saying, looking forward, they got a fireplace. We could just totally eat and chill. It's 29 points
per night. For 3. Oh, geez. And it's available?
It's available for 2 nights, but yeah, I was like, we could grab that like the following year, give them plenty of time. Could they pull them out of school? Oh, would that be a blast?
That would be crazy.
It would be cold weather, but I look, they got a fireplace. Like we could just totally, and we could bring the parents, or we can bring Doc's, one of Doc's family members. That would be a blast.
That would be fun.
29 points for freaking Grand Villa.
That's less than a studio at the Grand Floridian. I'm like stumbling here thinking about it.
At times, yeah, it is. Yeah, 29. Yeah, the studios are 6 points and the one bedrooms are 12. I mean, it's a bad time to go, but still balling out in a one bedroom for 12 points. You're staying 3 nights. It's the same as like.
Yeah, but just stay at. But see, that's what I like is the experience of being able to stay at a Grand Villa.
Yeah.
And not breaking the bank.
Just you got a pool table or something. Oh, that's so sweet.
And you could luck out. It could be like 60s too when you go.
Yeah, you don't know. It could be nice.
Could be 40s, but more likely 40s at that area.
I mean, for you, regardless, it's going to be a treat.
True, yes.
I mean, just to see the sunny skies, if it's 45 and sunny, it's going to be nice. You're going to be in shorts and a sweatshirt.
Yeah, exactly. Well, bring us home, Pards.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Thinking of 3 bedrooms.
3 bedrooms. We can take that offline. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at DVC Addicts. Email the show, info@addictedtodvc.com, and join our Facebook group, DVC Addicts. For my cousin and co-host Gary in Rhode Island, I'm Mike in Florida. Thanks for listening. We'll talk again next week.
Thank you for listening to the Addicted to DVC podcast with Mike and Gary. We want to hear from you. Email us at info@addictedtodvc.com and follow us on all socials at DVC Addicts. We appreciate you being a part of our DVC community, and we'll see you again on our next episode. Thanks again for listening, and welcome home.